Hi, writers. I've been grading your most recent published papers. I just want to remind you of a few things. One, journalists are objective, so even though you guys are doing a really good job bringing the social issue to light, you guys need to remember that you should not be giving your opinion throughout these papers. Some of you are forgetting the real life drama that is you're supposed to start off with. Make sure that you're including a real life drama that's going to bring to light a social issue, that you're not just starting off your paper right off the bat with your social issue and giving a bunch of opinions. The last thing I want to remind you of point of view. Remember, you're writing this in third person point of view, which means you're not using words like I and me and my. Okay, so now we're going to move on into um, elaborating to deepen readers' connections. I'm going to teach you some cool ways to spice up your writing today. I want to remind you that journalists often elaborate to deepen readers' connections. One way they do this is to craft allusions and analogies which invite the reader with just a few words to make profound associations. So basically, you're making connections in your readers' brains to what you're writing about. An allusion brings something to mind without directly mentioning it. For example, if I were to say, the next time I have a guest teacher and you guys do not behave, there are going to be serious consequences. Now, I may not have directly mentioned that I would write a referral, but I'm kind of alluding to the fact that a referral would be involved because that is a serious consequence at Franklin to receive a referral. Okay, so we're thinking about ways that we can make connections in our readers' brains. The most recent thing that I can think of that we discussed at school was September 11th. If you were to say in your writing, something was like September 11th, that would allude to the idea that it was tragic. It came out of nowhere. It might be a national calamity. It would have a very negative connotation in all Americans' brains. So if you were going to use that as a comparison in your writing, that would really trigger something in your readers, that it's just a tragic situation. Good journalists often compare things. Someplace was like, so and so was like, this situation was like, and you draw that comparison using an allusion or an analogy. If you were to talk about someone who's tough, let's say I wrote this sentence. The kid was tough and righteous, and he wasn't going to back down. Maybe this wasn't the arena. He wasn't Katniss, but he knew he had to stand up for himself. So the author of this sentence alluded to this book, The Hunger Games, where the character is just extremely brave, extraordinary, and always is standing up for injustices and weaker people. So by comparing the character and their writing to her, it's making connections in the reader's brain of what this character is like. An analogy is a more direct comparison between two things, usually for clarification, for understanding of the situation. I know a lot of you have probably been to White Oaks Mall during Christmas time, during the holiday season. And if any of you have ever been there right before Christmas, it's bumper to bumper traffic. People are trying to get in, people are trying to get out, do their last minute shopping, and headlights are on, people are honking. It's just kind of chaos. So I want to make a direct comparison with that situation to Disney's Magic Kingdom. I know a lot of you may not have ever been there, but you've seen pictures of it. You know what Disney World looks like, or Disneyland, and that it's bright and just kind of a happy place and glorious, every little kid's dream. So maybe I want to compare how bright it is and how lit up it is to the White Oaks Mall parking lot, which I'm talking about in my paper. So I would say something along the lines of, The parking lot was lit up like the Magic Kingdom, but not everyone was happy. So I'm comparing the brightness of it, but I'm also showing the contrast of the emotion that goes with it. So that would be a way to connect with my readers, to make connections in their brain between what I'm talking about and something they're already familiar with. You could also use an analogy to make a comparison to a famous person that everybody knows about. Most of you are familiar with Rosa Parks. She was an African American woman during the civil rights era that refused to give up her bus seat to a white person. And for that, it started just kind of a social awareness of the situation and the unfairness and a bus boycott. And she just is really famous for her taking a stand. She's someone who's courageous and a symbol of social activism. So you might say, if you compared a boy in your story to Rosa Parks, your reader wouldn't just think of him as a nice kid. He would now be more of a symbol of social activism. So this is how powerful just making a comparison in your writing can really clarify for your reader what exactly you're talking about. So I think it is something that all skilled journalists do and that we need to do today and every day, and as we further our skills in writing. So please keep this in mind. I have a little task for you today. In the comments of this assignment, I want you to write an allusion or an analogy comparing something or someone to something else or someone else. This is just going to be one sentence. This is just a practice round because I want you to start including it in your writing. You're going to get points for including it in your published works. But I just want everyone to choose something that is commonly known and write a sentence comparing it to something else. Okay, I'm going to give you some time to do this in your comments. Again, you're going to do a private comment to me in this assignment of one sentence, writing an allusion or an analogy. I also want to show you one other thing. Some of us are having a little trouble with transitions in our writing. This is a good list of transitions journalists use to elaborate perspective. The first one is, at first it seemed, but later, no one knows for sure, picture this, we can only imagine, some seem to think, but others. So when you're going on a topic that has two sides, that would be a good transition to elaborate perspective. One witness reported, but another. Bystanders disagreed, and then you could elaborate on both sides of the story. So this is just something I wanted you to keep in the back of your minds when you go to actually publish your next paper. Just some really good transitions you could use to elaborate perspective. Okay, get started on writing your allusion and analogy, or analogy. You're just writing one. Sorry, clarification. You're only writing one in a sentence, attaching it in the comments.